Hello, this is Kathy, the Arty Mummy, and welcome to day 10 of my 365-day challenge. So today we are to use crayon pencils, which I didn't have any of, but I did have a little set of oil pastels, so I figured they will do just fine. So going away for the first time from the watercolour and using some oil pastels. So I decided, instead of just creating random marks, I'm going to do an apple and see how that goes. So the first thing I did was picked up a brown and just popped in the general shape and some rough indications of where the shadow is going to be. Then I worked in with some red over the main areas that are going to be the red apple. And just layer on layer on layer with some orange, the darker, then the lighter, always leaving that the shiny part of the apple free at this stage. Then just going to start with some different tonal values, bringing in some green in sort of scratchy parts to indicate the changes in colour on the apple, as well as on the shadowy part, just a little bit heavier, and then on with a darker green to indicate more. That's quite a dark green I'm using there, and on the red that'll turn into quite a good shadow tone, but still keep the variation in colour and keep some just interest in it. Then just really blocked in those very, very darkest areas with some black, but only went really lightly with that. And now I'm going a bit heavier with some red to really give it some volume. Much heavier on the shadow parts, and then going a bit lighter with it on the lit parts of the apple. Still staying away from that shine. So, but yeah, using quite a bit more pressure, but not over the top heavy. So once I've done that, I'm going to bring in some light again with the light orange. And now I'm going to go over that shine with the white to make sure that it stays bright, and then very lightly over with the red, and then layer back on with the white again, and that just gives it a little bit of colour in there while still keeping it the very bright shine, because we want to get that, you know, waxed, shiny, beautiful apple look in the end. So layer on layer with the oranges and the reds and the greens until you start to feel a bit happy with the way it's looking. Now these are a really cheap little set of pastels, so they're not layering as nicely as a good quality set would, but I'm pretty happy with how it's coming out. Just building on those layers as I go. Now I'm adding a bit of yellow to give it a bit of brightness. And really work in those. So many, if you look, actually have a proper look at an apple, there's so many different tones of colour tones and hues in it. It's quite surprising. So I'm pretty happy with my apple now. I'm just going to put a little bit of a background on there, just for the fun of it, a bit of a table for it to sit on. I always like to ground things, give them something to be on. Just finishing up and just touching up a few little spots there and giving it a bit more depth in the darker bits and a bit more light in the lighter bits. And not too happy with that background, so I'm going to add a layer of green so that we get some blended colour in there and again a bit more interest. And I think it's looking pretty good. I'm still not 100% happy with it. Just bringing out that shadow and blending it a little bit more with the green. Making the right hand side of the table darker and the left hand lighter, because that's where the light source is coming from. Just letting it blend with the yellow underneath. And then adding yellow on top and just layering it like that. Now this whole thing took me about half an hour to do, from start to finish. At this stage I decided to do what the book actually says and experiment with different marks and things that you can use the crayon pencils or pastels with, and seeing how well they blend and how you can make a variety of marks with them depending on pressure and angle and all that sort of thing. Now I found that they don't actually blend all that well, but they're quite good at making a variety of colours when you lay them directly on top of each other. But when you're sort of putting them next to each other and trying to make a nice blend between two colours, it doesn't work all that well. And as I sort of demonstrate here with going over the red with the yellow, they just don't sort of pick up and blend as nicely as the higher quality ones that I've used before. So I had enough of that and decided to go back to my apple for a little while, just brightening some of those brights up with the white, and then going back into the table a little bit more. Decided to finish up the background with a wall behind in a nice bright yellow. And when I did this, I thought it may be a little bit too bright and might need a little bit more interest, so I went over that again with the light orange, and just lightly with the very top of, like the round flat top, just ran over that with the light orange to just give it some interest, like I said. Now that top edge of the table was a bit sort of wishy-washy and untidy, so I grabbed the really dark green and just decided to really solidify that table or bench that the apple's sitting on, and then into the shadow with the dark green, because the dark green just wasn't, actually I haven't done that yet, but yeah, back over the apple with the bright red, because there was a really messy bit on the left hand side that I didn't like, and I thought it could do with just a little bit more intense red colour on it. And then there I go, just filling that shadow in with the dark green so that it matches with the tabletop. So that's it, all finished. And if you did an apple, please let me know how you went. And as always, please like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video. Thanks so much for watching. See you next time. And here we have the ever-elusive creature called a teenager. He rarely ventures out of his bedroom.
Go away.